Alright, you know you're in for a good time. We got a welder pointing at the rear of a truck, so let's go ahead and weld this diff up and make the Cralwer a little more capable off-road with a cheap Lincoln locked, or I guess Vulcan locked, rear locker. Alright, so the perks are working a nice rock car with a very empty dovetails. Look at all this room. I can just sit here and access everything super easily. So let's go ahead and knock out the first step. Take the little diff cover off, get all the little gas material cleaned off, drain the oil for the most part, and start to clean inside the diff. Let's do it. Almost got away scot-free, almost. All right, I'm gonna take a wire wheel to clean off both surfaces real quick. It looks like most of the silicone's stuck on the diff cover, so I'm gonna knock this one out on the ground, come back here and be very careful and just hit all the outside, clean it all up nice and straight. All right, we're gonna start cleaning out everything. Yeah, it's just like everyone does it differently. That's the issue. Like some people weld a lot more. Some people are like, just weld the corners. You're not gonna break it. People are like, unless you're running 1,000 horsepower, just weld the corners. But like, there's like a right way to do it and a more right way to do it, technically. Okay, a big thing to be sure is that you ground to the ring gear itself. That way, you go through no bearings and you don't have to run the ground through a bearing material. I'm also gonna throw some tin foil over it. You know, just to try and stop as much of the weld splatter as possible if I can. Might be a little bit overly protective, it might do nothing, who knows. But either way, it's on there, so. Alright, here's what we're looking at. Let me try and give you a nice clean picture inside the diff. So a lot of people weld the spider gears to the carriers. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm just going to do all 4 corners of the spider gears on each side and also weld to the center pin. I don't think I'm ever going to break that. You know, there's ways to make it stronger, but I just don't think I need to. I mean, after all, this is still a 9 1/4 axle, so, you know, more than likely the axle is going to blow up before, you know, I actually care to improve the welded diff. So that's my thought process on it. And at this point, we're all nice and prepped. Everything's nice and clean, so we're going to get ready to burn it in. I'm going to use 3/8 setting with like half speed on my MIG at 220. So, you know, we'll have nice penetration. Another thing to look out for is not to weld for more than like a few seconds at a time. I'm probably going to do 5 seconds max. That way you don't warp anything and you get it as clean and crisp as possible, as well as letting it air dry. So, that being said, let's preheat it and get ready to weld.
I'm going to the backwoods and my feet are raised up high. Going to do a little off-road in my mouth if I go by. It's just a life of bullets made me recognize the cure to all my sorrows is when I mud up this old ride. There are things that make us romantic. It can be the job or the one you live with. There's gotta be a place for us to go and hide. She's sitting outside right there in my drive. Those beadlock mates make it come alive. Everybody's got a vice, and this one's mine. I'm going to the backwoods and my feet are raised up high. Going to do a little.
So we're gonna let this air cool real quick. As you can see, those welds are in there. They're nice and full. They're really thick. Yeah, also not very pretty, but you know, they're there. And as they always say, weld it is weld it. So that's in there. I'll call that one good. It's tough to get pretty welds when it's still in the car and you don't take the carrier out. You know, is what it is though. So that's how it turned out. I'm gonna let this air cool for a little bit. Put the diff cover gasket back on the diff cover. Put the diff cover back on. Fill with oil, and we'll be good to go. Alright guys, that's it for that one. We're not leaking anything. Everything's in place. Felt the nice little first bit of tire skips pulling out of the driveway, but you know, everything works. No weird sounds, so we're good to go. Next time you see this thing, it's going to be the first test drive of it on a trail. We're going to go to Morris ATV and Off-Road Park, and that's going to be the first test ride. Where we're going to determine a bunch of things and some limiting factors and what the next steps are for the Dodge. So, the cheap Cralwer is coming along.